Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Bertrand Gacon. Impaakt is a startup based in Geneva, which is active in collective sustainability assessment. I think if I had to ask the same question last year to the same audience, about how many of you know the difference between single materiality and double materiality, or financial materiality and impact materiality, who raised their hands and can define the difference between those two concepts? Nobody? Well, then you should, because actually the CSRD regulation, which is being now enforced coming from Europe, is actually making that distinction very clear. And maybe in a nutshell, I should start with that. Financial materiality is about collecting data and reporting about any environmental or social issue that can affect your business. Right? This is why it is called financial materiality. Now, there's an entire other side of the same coin, which is about impact materiality. So it's no longer about what impact the environment might have on my business. It's more about what impact my business is having on the environment. And until recently, there's been a lot of confusion between those two dimensions, but they're very different questions. They require very different types of data. The first one about financial materiality is really something you want to tell to your shareholders. They need to know whether your business is at risk for environmental or social reasons. For instance, you have a plant which is built in an area which could be flooded, right? The other question about impact materiality is a question for your stakeholders, really global society. It's really the impact that the business is having on the planet and society. My background is in sustainable finance. I started about 20 years ago, creating the sustainable finance offering at BNP Paribas at that time. And the whole industry has been focused only on financial materiality. But everyone wants to know about the other question, which is the impact materiality. Now, CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, that has been produced by the EU and affecting not only EU companies, but almost every single company here in Switzerland and abroad, is making it compulsory for all corporates or large corporates to report on both types of materiality. And this is a new part, a brand new part of the sustainability. One more, some of you would say, that needs to be done, is really now taking seriously the question of sustainability and really asking the question about the impact on the planet and society. That might sound like a surprise to some of you, already thinking that, but this isn't what we've been doing for such a long time. Well, not. ESG data is very much about financial materiality. Now, thanks to that regulation, it has become essential to assess the real impact that you have on the planet. That's the first requirement. And it's also very important, it's actually a legal requirement, that you do that integrating your stakeholders. And if you think about it, that's really the elephant in the room. All of those discussions, all of those data, all of those assessments about sustainability that are being done by the financial industry or corporates, they're really done by a bunch of specialists, and never, ever, they integrate the views of those who actually suffer those impacts. Global society, employees, shareholders, customers, investors, business association, all of these ecosystems, they are not part of the equation. They don't participate in the assessment. They don't tell the company that, the impact you have in plastic pollution is so much bigger and so much important than the one you can have in creating jobs, and how do you weight all of these different values, different topics, one against the other. So engaging your stakeholders is not only something which is now part of that new regulation, so it's a legal requirement, but it is also something that makes a lot of sense for corporates to do. Being able to know what your employees, your shareholders, your customers, how they evaluate each of your impacts, and how positive, negative, but also how small or big they will think all of these impacts are. This is now what all of the corporates have to do. And we have developed a solution to do that. It brings major benefits for the corporates. The first one, upstream, is really to better understand where you should put your budget, your sustainability budget. I still, see many corporates doing their internal assessment, asking a bunch of employees or their CSO, defining what they believe, maybe generally, where are their main impact. Actually, they're so wrong. They're really putting all of the budget on topics that their own community, their own stakeholders don't feel are important. And they completely forget what really matters. So being able to integrate all of your stakeholders is the best way to really inform your strategy, your sustainability strategy, and make sure you spend your budget where really it matters. It's also a very good way of identifying hidden risks and opportunities. Having something that you had not realized is so important for your communities. Now, downstream, it's also something which is very important because at one point in time, all that strategy is going to be turned into real program. You need to transition. You need to create maybe new products. You need to change your processes. All of that will require a lot of support from the very people that work for you, maybe from your customers. So making sure that they're part of that sustainability journey is also a good way to create buy-in and to make sure that you reduce the cost, you ease the implementation program, and you make all of your program a lot more efficient. This is nice, but it's very complicated and very challenging to integrate your stakeholders. It's not so easy to reach out massively to your customers, to your employees, to your investors, all of these people, to global society, right? It takes a lot of time. You need to create questionnaire. You need to make sure people, they answer this question knowing what impact analysis is all about. It's also very complicated to make sure that they can actually provide inputs that are consistent, coherent, that you can then really consolidate in a meaningful way. So for all of that, you need skills, you need technology, and you need also a way of streamlining this entire process from the beginning to the end. This is where Impaakt comes in. We are a collaborative platform. Our business initially was really to measure the impact of business using a community-driven approach. We sell the data to the financial industry. That has been our historical model. But increasingly, we now sell the technology to the corporates. They have with us a ready-to-use plug-in solution that can support all of the process of generating their CSRD report, but also of preparing their whole sustainability journey. There are three things that really we have fully automated on the platform. The first one is everything about the data collection and structuring. CSRD has identified up to 3,000 data points that the corporates now need to collect and report. They're very standardized, but it's a huge effort with the first report that need to be issued in 2025. So most of the corporates in Europe and quite a few in Switzerland as well are already starting to gather the data, structure the data. They need to assign data collection to the right people within their teams. They need to make sure they understand what are required, what are the right units. All of that is being taken care of into the platform. Now, data collection is only the beginning. The very tricky part, and what is really at the heart of that new regulation, is that collective impact materiality assessment. We know the company is, emitting whatever number of tons of CO2. We know that the company is creating that many jobs. We know that the company is providing these services. Okay, that's fine. We've got the figures. But how do you weight each of these impacts against the other? What is really material? How much impact do you consider this is having on the planet and society? Let's take the example of Nestlé. We're in Switzerland. Everybody knows about Nestlé, right? Nestlé contributes to feeding the planet. They contribute to food safety and food quality. They also contribute with some of their product to maybe obesity and health issues. They generate a lot of plastics. They create a lot of jobs. So they do many positive, many negative stuff. How do I figure out what really is important? And how do I discriminate each of these impacts one against the other? I can turn to a consulting firm and ask an expert to try to figure out what really matters. But at the end of the day, this call has to be made by global society. It's not me who needs to decide that plastic pollution is a more important topic than job creation. It needs to be really all of the stakeholders and maybe even global society coming together to do that assessment. And this is exactly what the regulation is requiring, actually. It is asking all the corporates to measure each of these impacts and to weight each of these impacts, engaging their communities, engaging their stakeholders. That requires the technologies where you can bring all of your employees, all of your suppliers, all of your customers into one single platform where they are being trained and where they are collectively guided into a very simple process of generating this assessment and producing the final reporting. All of that is being done by the platform. It really goes into, as I was mentioning, 3 different steps. And the end result, this is just a few of the screenshot that you had. The end results are really about this maturity map, as we call them, and as the regulators call them as well. So as you can see in this graph, it's a very simple graph, so there's no rocket science. And actually, part of the power of this graph and of this technology is how simple is the end result for management decision. It always shows all of the impact that have been decided as the most important for the company. In that case, we're talking about Total Energy, an oil and gas company, and they will, document each bubble that you see on this graph is one of the different impact topics that is, one of the most important for an oil and gas and energy company. Some of them are about, of course, the provision of energy. This is this bubble that you see there. Every company also contributes to paying tax or creating jobs. They create product waste. And of course, for an oil and gas company, they also produce a lot of GHG emissions. Now, that's only the one dimension, which is which of these impact is, very positive, slightly negative, very negative. So you've got this first horizontal axis. But more importantly, what are the most important contribution of this company? Again, as decided by their stakeholders, not as decided by Mr. Pouyanné, the CEO of the company. This is their very own employees, their very own customers, their very own suppliers coming together and weighting these different impact, not based on rule of thumb, but based on facts, figures, metrics that have been collected, reported, extracted, okay? And this is, the one-size-fits-all, the very basic starting point for management to decide where to go and how to do next. This is this diagnostic that you need to do, a legal requirement, but also a very important tool to really inform your strategy. Now, the company Impact is up and running. We have already, covered more than 5,000 companies that have been assessed. We have a captive community of almost 60,000 participants that every day do this collective impact assessment. You're actually also welcome to join on the platform. And this community altogether have performed more than 1.2 million impact assessment, collective impact assessment. So there's a huge database of already existing companies that can be mobilized to basically rate the impact of every single company in the world. This solution is commercially in place. We have raised recently 8 million round in July, so we're not immediately looking for additional funding, but just to accelerate the growth with those 2 business models, selling this SaaS solution to the corporates and selling the data to the financial industry. 2 very, I would say, self-feeding type of business model. The more we sell the SaaS solution to the corporates, the more people are being onboarded on the platform, the more they create data that we can then sell to the financial industry. So it's really triggering very powerful network effects. If you're interested to know more, either because as a corporate you want to use that platform, or as a financial specialist you want to use the data, please come to me and we'll be happy to organize a demo. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.